Hello, good people. Welcome back to the Kuhb Games YouTube channel. We are going over another one of my tournament matches from the last PWCQ. Didn't want to upload these all together, and I'm probably not going to upload every round, just trying that out. Generally, those have gotten lower views than most of my other videos, so just going to bring like a couple, sort of picked at random. This was my first round match. The last one we did was my last round match, so thought it'd be cool. We are playing against someone who has been featured as an opponent on the channel quite a bit. It's not intentional. It's just kind of how it shook up. So obviously we're playing Earth Aggro, and we are playing against Relinquished here. I didn't know that until going over this replay, but yeah, let's get into it. We win the die roll, so we get to go first. Always good with the aggro deck. Always good with any deck in this format, obviously. But we open up a hand with 3 monsters, Mirror Force, Dust Tornado. Pretty cool. I am expecting my opponent to be on some sort of aggressive strategy. Every time that I've played against this person, that's kind of what they've gravitated toward. I've seen a lot of like Stein, Last Will, and stuff like that. So, draw Pot of Grief for turn. Love it. I'm just going to rip it off. We draw a Ring and a Gigantes. Awesome. Sure, I opt to just play DD Assailant, set Dust Tornado, pass. I wanted to play this over the DD Warrior Lady for, some fairly obvious reasons. Obviously, it is an Earth, so if it just gets destroyed, it turns on these Gigantes early on. And DD Warrior Lady can be better at being a bit more of a proactive threat, whereas DD Assailant is reactive to taking out threats. So kind of want to save the DD Warrior Lady till later. So I like this. I like not overextending on back row. Again, like I thought my opponent was going to be some sort of aggressive strategy, which makes me want to set more, but that's not 100% going into this. So the Dust Tornado takes care of the Snatch Steal, which is awesome. Opponent goes for Exiled Force, which I'm perfectly okay with. So this is the opponent using their Exiled Force and using one of their toolbox cards in Rhoda to just take out a random DD Assailant on turn 1. And it turns on my Gigantes. I'm all about this. So draw Nobleman of Crossout. Now that I've seen Rhoda Exiled Force, maybe the knock isn't going to be as good as I want it to be, but just going to summon DD Warrior Lady and attack. Again, no reason to overextend because we don't know exactly what we're against, and if it is Warriors, a lot of the traps are going to be relevant, and one of them, like this one, could be a Mirror Force, could be a Torrential, who knows. So I'm perfectly okay with just being a little bit conservative here. We do have, Gigantes into Gigantes chain if we need to sort of do some more explosive plays a little later. And we can just use that as a way to fight through the back row. We are actually up on card advantage, so pretty okay with playing a little conservatively here. Opponent draws Graceful Charity, discards Chaos Sorcerer and Upstart Goblins. I'm like, okay, so this is probably some sort of like Chaos Warrior, which is pretty nice. Opponent draws a Thunder Dragon, and then they summon Breaker, and this is exactly why we set the Ring of Destruction here. Just being a chainable trap is nice. I like to set that before the Mirror Force. Had we set the Mirror Force here, obviously our opponent would just kill it with the Breaker, get a nice +1 and get in for 1600. But since we set the Ring, we just get to take care of the Breaker. My opponent takes this as a chance to summon BLS, which, Earth Aggro doesn't really have a whole lot of like actual traps. So, you've already seen the Ring, so likely you just have to fight through Mirror Force and Torrential. Obviously, Torrential can't catch the BLS, so now you're just playing against Mirror Force as far as like traps. And 1 DD Assailant, 1 DD Warrior Lady are already gone. So a lot of outs to the BLS are already used up. So I don't hate this play. I'm just being aggressive. And knowing that the opponent has 2 Thunder Dragons in hand still, right? Yeah, they still have 2 Thunder Dragons in hand. So pretty much their option here is to get aggressive. So I like their play. I'm going to set Trap Dust Shoot, set Mirror Force, and pass. Just going to flip the Dust Shoot here. Opponent goes to main phase 1, but meant to do this in the standby, obviously. So look at the opponent's hand. It's 2 Thunder Dragons, a Dawn Zalug, and a Sasuke. I opt to take the Dawn because my opponent, could sandbag it for later, and I kind of don't want them to be able to rip through my hand, whereas this Sasuke is doing just absolutely nothing. So pretty okay with that. Dawn goes back. My opponent does opt to summon the Sasuke. I actually like this play. It is overextending into a potential Mirror Force, but, you know, if I have a Mirror Force, they're kind of screwed anyway, and they have nothing past this. So I like the idea of just go for game. You get punished by like almost exactly Mirror Force, and that is what I have, of course. So that works out for me. I summon Gigantes, just attacking for 19. And then I make a bad play here. I set the Heavy Storm. This was recorded before a lot of the YouTube comments and a lot of the replays that I've watched. I've noticed that I've done this too often, just setting cards unnecessarily. Obviously, in this case, it doesn't really hurt me, or we'll see that it doesn't really hurt me. But no, this is for sure something that I've noticed from the YouTube comments and from watching back a bunch of replays, that this is something that I have been doing way too often, and I have worked to stop that. There are times where you want to set bluffs. There are times where you want to just, you know, set cards to protect against Delinquent Duo, but this is not that time, especially knowing that my opponent just has 2 Thunder Dragons in hand. With a Gigantes on the board, if they draw something like a Blade Knight or something that I might think they'd have in their deck to attack over the Gigantes, then I just lose the Heavy Storm for no reason. So that was obviously a misplay, but opponent sets a monster. I draw a DD Assailant, gonna summon the Assailant, knock their monster, and the opponent's gonna concede. So that'll be game 1. I like how I played that outside of setting the Heavy Storm. Obviously, again, that was a bad play, but we learn, we move on from it. And we go to game 2. All right, realize I kind of sped through that a little quickly, just kind of talking fast. So game 2, as you can see, I have sided in the Cypher Soldiers. What I'm thinking is I'm playing against Chaos Warrior, and they're probably going to leave in, you know, some amount of Warriors. They could very likely side in Zombras and stuff as well. So I think Cypher Soldier, or Kinetic Soldier, as I try to call it, is actually a good one to have in the deck. We open Pot of Greed, which is fantastic. Gigantes with Call of the Haunted, which is a little bit of a non-bow, especially with only having the 1 Earth in hand, but what do you do? This hand's perfectly fine. So opponent's going to lead on Upstart Goblin, not a big deal. And Rhoda for DD Warrior Lady right off the bat. I don't hate that, but generally I like to hold on to my Rhodas. That tells us, you know, maybe the opponent doesn't have a whole lot of interaction, though they did set 2 back row. So it's kind of interesting what information you can gain from that. But I mean, DD Warrior Lady is just good in the matchup, so may not really be able to get a whole lot of information from that. It could also mean, you know, the opponent might be playing Return or something, but we do get a Trap Dust Shoot activated against us, which is a card that a lot of people are like, oh, you shouldn't have this in against any of the aggro decks. And yes, so the card is not amazing in the aggro matchups. However, Earth does play quite a few monsters. They're usually going to have more than 1 monster in hand. And Earth doesn't play a lot of traps, so they're not going to really be setting a lot. So if you don't have the cards to bring in against Earth, then I'm totally fine with leaving in some number of Trap Dust Shoots. And knowing that my opponent is a good player, I would imagine that's probably what happened here. I'm totally okay with that, so I'm not like, oh god, I'm getting Dust Shoot again like I do with when I play Warriors, because that's a deck that you really want to get Trap Dust Shoot out of your deck against. But I think there are definitely reasons to keep it in here. The Breaker goes back, which is unfortunate because we're at this this part of the game where I always just love Breaker against back row DD Warrior Lady. But I play Pot of Greed, draw a DD Warrior Lady, and my own Trap Dust Shoot. So we have some options here. The opponent, of course, doesn't have any monsters in the grave, so I kind of don't want to give them a light, because I know they are on just more than just BLS as far as Chaos monsters go, so no reason really to put the DD Warrior Lady in the graveyard. However, there could be reason to do that because I just want to get an Earth in the grave for Gigantes and try to go aggressive. We could also, you know, if we get the Exiled Force with the Rhoda, kill the DD Warrior Lady, summon Gigantes if it goes through. Cool. We're attacking it for 1900. and the DD Warrior Lady is gone. We also have Trap Dust Shoot to help us maybe pick off the Chaos Monster in our opponent's hand. And then we have, you know, DD Warrior Lady as well, and also Call of the Haunted for Exiled Force to follow up, to take care of a problematic Chaos Monster or something like that. So, I don't hate that idea. I opt to set the DD Warrior Lady. I think this is a fine play as well. Like, I don't feel like my opponent is going to have Nobleman in their deck, whereas they could very easily have like a Sakuretsu armor or something, especially with them taking the breaker there. It's highly likely they don't have a chainable trap. They could have like a battle trap or something. So setting it means my opponent is likely to attack. Not really sure what we could have in our deck. Like, we could have the Cypher Soldier in here. We could have, like, I've seen Earth Aggro decks play Spy, though kind of unlikely. It's very likely that this is just going to be one of the DD monsters, so maybe my opponent is incentivized not to attack, but I don't know. Looking back on it, I think I like the Exiled play, just because it works with, you know, Trap Dust Shoot, Call of the Haunted, Gigantes, but I can also understand I can understand this play as well. I set my 2 back row. I think it's fine because I'm just going to flip Dust Shoot here. Dust Shoot sees Smashing Ground, Breaker, Tribe Infecting Virus, and Mirror Force. So, not the most threatening hand in the world. Obviously, they have answers to a lot of things, but we just put the Breaker back because we want to keep our Call of the Haunted. We don't really care about this Tribe here, because if they attack with the Warrior Lady, we just get rid of them. If they attack with Tribe, we just get rid of them. So the Tribe's not really that big of a deal. And then we just have to fight through a Mirror Force and a Smashing Ground, which isn't the hardest thing to do in the world. So opponent's actually going to switch DD Warrior Lady to defense. They attack with their Tribe, and we're just going to banish both here. If we don't, obviously they just get to ditch the Smashing Ground or whatever to kill the DD Warrior Lady. I draw Nobleman. I did leave in the Nobleman because I was expecting some sort of amount of flips in the deck. Some sort of like Dekoichi, probably Magician of Faith or whatever. So I did opt to leave it in, and I think that's fine, not totally knowing what I'm playing against. But now we're going to do the Rhoda for Exiled Force play, which was something that I obviously had talked about a bit before, but I don't hate this here. We draw Premature Burial, which is actually nice. I'm just going to summon Cypher Soldier. We're going to get aggressive here. If the opponent wants to Mirror Force, that's perfectly fine. We can draw out the Mirror Force with one of these. That's great. Perfectly fine with that. Also fine with drawing out the Smashing Ground here. But my opponent draws Breaker after we had put it back with a Dust Shoot, which is kind of annoying, but not the end of the world. They just attack. We don't have anything to bring back really with the Call of the Haunted to stop the Breaker attack here, which is unfortunate. So we do lose the Call of the Haunted and take the damage, but we draw a Tribe here. So we can summon Gigantes. We know there is a Mirror Force over there. Or we can just summon Tribe and kill the Breaker. They likely have to deal with the Tribe with like either the Mirror Force or the Smashing Ground, which is fine with me. And we can just get rid of this dead Nobleman of Crossout in hand. And I think, yeah, that is the play that I make. I think that's a pretty decent play here. Because it's looking like this knock isn't going to be doing anything for a while. So the opponent does take the 16. So we've got him down to 50-50, which is nice. I know my opponent has Mirror Force, so we're not going to overextend into that. We're just going to keep attacking with this Tribe and make them use the Mirror Force. So we do get the Mirror Force out on a 1-for-1 on just a 1600 beater. And that's great for me. So I'm just going to set this Giant Rat because I do know about the Smashing Ground still. I don't know about the Smashing Ground still. That's in the graveyard. So I think it's fine to just set it anyway. My opponent, it could have more, more Smashing Grounds or whatever. But again, I believe their knocks are no longer in the deck. So now I'm just going to flip the Giant Rat. And because I need to make some sort of play. I can't just, since I had already attacked that turn, I couldn't attack with it again. So now it's fine. If the opponent wants to Torrential, that's fine. If they want to use a Battle Trap, that's fine. And now if they have another Smashing Ground, that's also fine. But I can't just sit back and do nothing. The Giant Rat gets in. Opponent does nothing on their turn. So here I've got them at 3650. We're just going to attack with Giant Rat again. I don't hate that. I mean, we can just kind of sit back and do nothing until our opponent makes us do something else. And we also have, like, we have this other rat, which we're going to set now. Again, knocks probably aren't in the deck. No reason to not set the card. Though it's likely, you know, telegraphed as either a rat or a DD assailant at this point. But here we have, like, if the opponent has an answer like Torrential Tribute, we can just flip up the Giant Rat. We can get Torrential Tributed, that's fine. We have Gigantes here that can come in and do some damage. We also have Premature Burial to go for a game shot if we want to. So, just pass the turn. Our opponent, again, does nothing. So, now we have Goblin Attack Force, which is lethal. So, like, we can get through both of these back row, no problem, because we have the Premature Burial. So, it's very likely here we just have a game shot. We just have to play it correctly. I flip up the Giant Rat, which I think is the correct first play to make, because this shows lethal right here. So if they have Torrential, they just lose. They do have Torrential. I guess they don't just lose. They could have Torrential Battle Trap, but that's really not the end of the world. So they Torrential. I summon Goblin Attack Force. If they have an answer there, we can Premature Burial back the Goblin Attack Force. And we win, assuming it's not Bottomless Trap Hole, of course. Or, you know, if we need to, we can summon the Gigantes, whatever. But pretty easy push for a game there. So we look at our opponent's hand. We see Relinquished, Jinzo, and Heavy Storm. I didn't see anything at all that told me this might be Relinquished. Like, I guess we saw Thunder Dragon and some Chaos Monsters, but, like, I'm not used to seeing the Relinquished deck with all the Warrior package. I know it's a thing that's been tried out, but it's generally not how people are going with the deck. I didn't see a single Ritual Searcher. I didn't see Relinquished. I didn't see Black Illusion Ritual. I didn't even see a Raigeki Break. So, yeah, had no clue that this was a Relinquished deck, but I guess it was. But yeah, I think outside of the Heavy Storm play, this match was played fairly well from my side. If you all disagree, please let me know. But that was round 1 of the last PWCQ with Earth Aggro. Hope you guys enjoyed. We'll be back with the next video.